You're listening to Witch Wednesdays, a semi-weekly podcast source for all things witchcraft in the modern world. Join your host, Steph, on Wednesday mornings to chat about seasons, Sabbats, and all new witchcraft topics to help you make your life more magical. Welcome back to Witch Wednesdays. I'm Steph, and I have a guest here with me today to chat about a great topic and one that I'm not super familiar with and don't do a lot in my practice. So very excited to dive into everything that she has to offer, but I'm going to turn it over to her so she can introduce herself and let you know where you can find her online.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jana Stern. I am a psychic and an astrologer and a revolutionary. And my website is janastern.com. That's JANASTERN.com. And on all socials, across all social medias, you can find me at Jana Stern Healer. And that would be on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and X. And, if they invent a new one, I'll be on that as Jana Stern Healer.
Oh my gosh, you are so much better than I am. That is, I can't. They introduced another new one. I'm like, no, I don't even want to know what it's called. I can't do it.
I love tech and I'm heavy in the crypto space. I've always been sort of like a trendsetter in that way. And so yeah, teach me something new. Let me get my hands dirty in something I never learned before. So that's my perspective on things.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
My complete opposite. That's what makes the world go round.
Exactly. Exactly.
So I would love to first ask you where it kind of got started for you in your journey to figure out what all you are gifted in and then to make the decision to share that with the world.
hmm Yeah, coming out of that psychic closet was like a really tricky one for me
Yeah.
once upon a time. And then now I just I wear it so bravely. But it was a long and arduous process. It began, and I'll say like trigger warning, it began with a intense eating disorder that led to a suicide attempt. And during that time, in my healing, in my process, I was going to many different therapists. I was, on lots of different medications. And I met this woman who was a spiritual psychotherapist, and she started to open doors for me. I was doing EFT tapping with another therapist, which now I'm blessed to be able to give other people. And then I started to put my toes into the world of metaphysics and esoterics. And as I started to meditate, I was like, oh, these voices that I'm hearing probably are serving a purpose beyond me just like literally feeling like I'm going crazy, which is the story of my father. He's been mentally ill my whole life. So there was like this push pull in myself of like, am I crazy or am I gifted? And years of understanding esoteric truths and learning metaphysics and going deeper and deeper into different practices like astrology, human design, et cetera. The more I learned, the more that I was like, hold on a minute, this whole reality is completely fake. And the gift I have is not unique. It's not special. I'm special, but what I do is not. And I just started to realize that everybody who's ever gone crazy has gone crazy because the reality that we have been living in, I would say, certainly prior to 2020, those veils have been lifted, I would say now. But that world was structured in such a dense third dimensional reality that it was sort of like no wonder everybody feels like they're going crazy because everything is such an illusion. And so, yeah, I just, the more I studied, the more confident I felt. Wearing this badge. I was always a crystal kid. I could hear them as a child and, would play with my grandfather's collection and things like that. And then eventually I was like, oh, right, these crystals that have been singing me songs and telling me stories since I was a child, there might be something to that. So yeah, this is why I call myself a revolutionary, because I break those molds for other people as much as I do for myself.
I think that's such a brilliant story and so interesting to see where you've come from because that would beat a lot of other people down.
Oh, girl.
And I mean, obviously, it did almost beat you down, but you rose above it, and then you are able to offer that to other people. I think that's really beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. It's an ongoing process of navigating some of the things that are surrounding that origin story. And I have a lot of resilience. It's why I have a coaching program called the Resilience Revolution, for exactly that reason, because the resilience that I have like exemplified and lived, it's teachable. It's not a skill set that people can't learn. I've just been really thrown to the wolves and learned to howl a lot. So I like to teach others how to howl at the moon too. It's a good practice, by the way. If you've never done it, highly recommend.
No, that I love.
Right? Who doesn't love to
That,
howl at the moon?
that I think a lot of witches listening are familiar with. We love our moon cycles.
Yes, definitely. Same girl, same.
And I always find that interesting because anything auditory is not really one of the gifts that I have. Mine
Hmm.
are usually, related to smell, sometimes taste. So I've never
Oh,
actually like heard anything. So when people say that they're like communicating, there's so many different ways to communicate, but specifically like auditory communication, like I have never experienced that. So I find it absolutely fascinating.
I have a girlfriend who has vision. She has like, clairvoyance in not just in the voying the future, but she can actually see your ancestors. She can see deceased loved ones. She can see all kinds of crazy stuff. And every time she tells me what she's seeing, my jaw just like hits the floor. I'm like, what do you mean? That is crazy. And I can hear all kinds of things. And I'm like, what? And the idea that you've got clairgustance is like the coolest thing in the world. Like that's insane that you can taste is like, that's the coolest. I love it. I wish I had all those gifts.
And I love that you take that word crazy and make it into like the best way possible. It's
Oh
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
the best version of crazy is all of us,
Well,
witches in our
I've
different ways.
well, I mean, listen, when I was a kid, that word triggered the crap out of me. It was really, really hard for me. Somebody would say the word crazy, and I would just start freaking out. I would go into a tailspin. And I've taken the word back to such an extent that, yeah, I do. I use it for for the good of crazy instead of for the negative.
Absolutely. Mine is weird.
I
It's
love
weird.
that.
You're weird. I'm like, you know what? Yes, I am. I am weird.
Thanks.
Everything I
Thank
do
you
is
so
weird.
much. Thanks so much. You're right. I am weird. I don't want to be normal.
Excellent
Thank
word.
you. Try to be unnormal. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I would love to ask you about, because I know that this is one of your fields and something that I've talked about on the podcast before, and I really want to. And every time we talk about chakras, I say that I'm going to get into it, and I never do. And then every time
Mm.
something comes up, I'm like, brilliant, yes, love it, want to incorporate it, and I never do. So
Mm.
let's chat. What is this idea of chakras and chakra wellness techniques?
Yeah. So, like off rip, I have a ebook that if you subscribe to my newsletter, you get this free ebook in your inbox, which will be very helpful if you're wanting to learn all about this
Oh,
stuff.
thank goodness.
Yes. It's the ABCs of the chakras, with lots of my face all over that ebook. So if you want to know what the heck I look like, that's how to do it. So our chakras, I should say, our bodies, our energy. We know this. We know that we are just frequency, and physics is proving this more and more and more and more every day. And where energy flows into our body, because we are a full vessel, and we have lots of different spaces where we can receive energy. We don't, you don't just only get pain in one place, right? You get pain in lots of different places. And so our chakras are connected to our physical body. It's like the filter through which we receive energy into our physical realities, because we are our own physicality. So, there are seven major ones, and the seven ones that are located in your body go up the spinal cord. They go up what's called your central core axis, which is where your spinal cord is, but it's actually like sort of like you can think about it, a pillar of light in the middle of your body that goes from root to crown. And on the way up from your root to your crown, there are sort of seven pit stops. um, where the energy is flowing to you or from you, because as an energetic being, you are also giving energy. So those seven major ones um, are, the big ones that we sort of deal with. Um, there are more than seven in our body, many, many more than seven in our body. But let's start with those, and then we can, move into the next layer of things.
Yeah, seven's a good place to start.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah.
So for somebody that's, in my boat and just listening to this and
Mm-hmm.
thinking, okay, I got to kind of understand this
Mm-hmm.
concept of chakras. What are some of the benefits then that somebody could experience if they want to, learn more about this and start working on it? What can they sort of expect if they want to dive in?
Physical health, emotional health, mental health, balance, stability, consistency, achieving your goals. I mean, what can't you do? um, you know, those seven chakras in particular, they represent physical ailments that actually we experience in our body. And, I talk about this a lot, but some of the dis-ease that happens in our body manifests, it starts as energy. It starts as, in physics as a wave and becomes a particle and goes back to a wave. When it's in its particle, it shows up as dis-ease. So that could be like you getting a cold, and it could be you getting something as extreme as cancer. And everything in between those things. If you have chronic illnesses, like if you have chronic migraines, in all likelihood, you are blocking your third eye. You are like closed in your third eye, and there's not enough energy flowing to and from the third eye. Therefore, your mind feels blocked off, and you are in pain. You are in dis-ease. Same thing with um, people who get pancreatic cancer. Well, are you stabilizing yourself? Do you feel secure? Are you watching your finances? Are you comfortable and careful with your finances? All of these different things, everything that happens in our physical vessel is teaching us something. And, we've become so dependent on a system that actually is like constantly poisoning us. Um, that we are not really experiencing wholeness and wellness in the holistic sense, as in not holistic as in like crunchy granola holistic, but holistic as in your whole body has the potential to be entirely healed. But, we are so diseased as a society that it's difficult to do that. So balancing your chakras and, finding ways to recognize, okay, what does it mean if my solar plexus is out of balance? If you're saying yes to things that you really want to say no to, or you're just battling everybody for everything and you're constantly angry, well, you're going to have gut digestive issues. You're going to have problems with your digestion, if you're a huge people pleaser. And all these things, they're not accidents. Your body is telling you things, it's sending you signals because your spirit is literally trapped in it. So, so long as you're in your body, it sends you messages, but we've been taught again to ignore them. So the chakras, learning how to work with them actually creates this opportunity for true healing, like full body healing. And when you work to bring them into balance, suddenly you start to notice, okay, I was leaning heavily in this direction, but actually I need to sort of balance those scales a little bit differently, and find a little bit more stability, because overgiving is one thing or undergiving is something else. But there is always this beautiful balance that is possible, but we don't live in a balanced reality. So where the revolution comes is in you being balanced anyways.
Uh, Two things that occurred to me as you were saying that I want to follow up on. First of all,
Yeah.
I absolutely have to say that shout out to my friend Betsy here, who is the biggest people pleaser I have ever met in my life and also has the most gut issues of anyone I have ever met in my life.
Girl.
Girl, take notice of this. I know she listens today, so you need to take notice of this right now because that directly applies to you. But then the other
Go
thing,
get the ebook, Betsy.
yeah, you need it. The other thing I wanted to say though is that you're saying that addressing some of these things can help, but you're not saying that like fixing one or like working on one chakra area is going to cure cancer. That's not where you're coming
Okay, so
from.
I am not a doctor, and I am, by all legal entities, not saying that. However, um, I believe it is possible to cure the illnesses in your body with your mind. And that is proven. Is research. Dr. Joe Dispenza has done a ton of research on this, and others like him. John Kabat-Zinn, who is the founder of mindfulness, has proved something very similar. There are lots and lots and lots of people who are scientists and doctors, who have proven that the mind is so powerful that actually your attitude, and like there's research on this all over the place. If you have cancer and you think I'm going to die, guess what happens? And if you have cancer and you think I'm going to live and I'm going to beat this, guess what happens? It's not 100%. And again, I am not a doctor, and I'm not claiming that all you have to do is just tell yourself you're better and then you're better. But manifestation is very, very, very real. And um, you have more power in your mind than you know. And so I am saying that this is a very, very important part to not necessarily curing cancer, but, you know, cancer doesn't happen overnight. You get precancerous cells and then they become cancer. Again, wave, particle, and then back to the wave. Sometimes going back to the wave is curing the cancer. Sometimes going back to the wave is your whole body, your entity, your energy goes back to the wave and you die. Um, I'm not saying that this is the cure, but I am saying that in future medicine, we will see that the Eastern knowledge and truth, and like look at how long the people in the East are living and have been living for millennia. Their knowledge is not an accident. It's not their health is not an accident. They have an understanding of the energetic vessel that we are in that is radically different than the one that is known in the West, where we are constantly being poisoned and told we have no power. And, the whole system is structured so that we don't know how strong our mind is. So I hope that kind of answers what you were asking. I'm
No,
not saying, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it does. It does. I just want to, because I think we are saying or like believe the same thing that like the mind is a
Hmm.
powerful tool that works alongside modern medicine. Like
Hmm.
chakras
Hmm.
don't take the place of your doctor. Like you gotta still like
Yes.
both
Please
things.
see your
But
doctor.
yes, but I completely agree with you that the mind is such an important part of everything that goes on, and so much of our current society causes so many diseases in the body, just from how we live, environmental factors, things that didn't exist a couple hundred years ago. And
Hmm.
all of these things are affecting our day-to-day living and well-being from like, head to toe, all of the things that are constantly wrong with us. Um,
Yes.
are so much of the stress of the world that we are living in. And yeah, your mind and taking care of outside things that you wouldn't think would be affecting your body actually are. I think people know that stress leads to illnesses. I think everybody's sort of on board with that.
Right.
Um,
Right.
I
And then
think that
so
we all experience that.
exactly. And so understanding your chakras helps you to understand where the energy is out of balance and how you can bring it back into balance. Because if you're having issues in your feet, like those things are tied to so many things. Like, I'm grateful that I have so many different, my spoon in so many different pots, because your feet are not just about your root chakra. They're also Pisces in the astrology chart. They're also connected to meridians. And the same is true of every part of your body. So when you have an understanding of, okay, where is Pisces in your astrology chart? What is the current transit there that is affecting you? How are you behaving? If you stub your toe, it's not an accident. It feels like an accident, but there is no such thing as accidents. And so understanding the chakras helps you to understand on a deeper level what is manifesting in your physical reality and why. And then how can you like find stability so you don't keep experiencing that same illness over and over and over again, whether that's a physical illness or sometimes it's just like a mental thing that you keep overthinking about or that you keep obsessing about. Your chakras point to what's possible beyond the limitation of the physical vessel that you are contained in, of the third dimension that we believe we are stuck in. You know what I mean?
So what is stubbing your toe or constantly bruising your legs? Because I do that all the time. What
So
do I
your
need to heal here?
your legs are Aquarius. And so I would like look at your I would look at your chart and see what do you know your chart, your astrology, your natal chart?
I have it on hand. Let's see.
Yeah.
I like keep it by me all the time because I know how much it is. Let's see what shows up in Aquarius on my birth chart. Where are we at?
Yeah. Tell me what house it's in, and then um if there are any planets there, let me know.
Let's see, Mars.
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah, you're warring. You're at war all the time in that way with the collective,
Mm,
with what the collective believes. I got that.
yeah.
Yeah.
The second house looks like second house.
Second house. Okay, well, no wonder you got a podcast that's bringing you in, hopefully some good money and that you've created a material world around it, something in the material around it, around this revolution that you're also creating, right? Yeah, because your second house is about money and your job and your work ethic and your income. And so, yeah, that's not surprising. So maybe my guess would be, if I had to intuitively assume, it's probably something like, are you creating healthy routines and structures that create um, stability financially in and also in your creation of your career? And like in manifesting material possessions, um, what does that structure look like? Maybe you're just bumping into things about it, but maybe you need to be a little bit more mindful and intentional, perhaps.
Probably the most
Okay.
accurate thing anybody's
Mhm.
ever said about me. All
Okay.
right, way to
Got
call me
that.
out, birth chart. And shoving my toes and legs. Wow, brutal.
Yeah, that's a taste of what it feels like to sit in a session with me. I'm just like, well, have you thought about?
Oh, that's I love that. It's that's very interesting to me.
Mm,
'Cause astrology is just my favorite, and I only know like very basics of birth charts, something I want to, dive more into. But like I
mm,
also tend to get overwhelmed easily, and there's like so
mm.
much when you like start with birth chart, it like immediately leads into so many other things. And it's
Hmm.
like one thing at a time. But like
Well,
all interconnects and like obviously all interconnects with chakras too. And I'm like, okay, I'm overwhelmed.
really, first of all, I will say one of the best practices for blending all of those things is human design. And I'm going to give a shout out to my teacher, Karen Curry Parker, who worked with Ra Uru, who invented human design. She has created something called quantum human design, and her teaching is unbelievable. But human design blends the I Ching, which is, again, an Eastern tradition, the chakras, an Eastern tradition, Kabbalah, which is a Jewish practice, and astrology. And her quantum also brings in quantum language and physics. So there is so much that you can learn. Quantum human design really, really, really helps you to understand how all of those things intertwine. But I will say that I have this teacher who, his name is Rick Levine. He's an astrologer. He has been writing, horoscopes in the newspaper since the 60s. This guy is brilliant. And he always says he is a student of astrology because there's like a million things to know about the infinite universe, right? And he's a genius. Like he's definitely a master, master teacher, master astrologer, but he will also call himself a student because, yeah, it is. There's a lot to know about everything of everything, right? So the trick there is to A, always look at your own birth chart first, and B, trust that what you need to know, you'll know when you need to know it. And that is all there is to it.
I like that. That makes me feel a little bit better. Even though like logically I know that it's a constant study and you're never going to master it ever in your whole entire life.
Hmm.
I still like the other part of me is like, but I want to know everything. I want to understand it immediately. I have like no patience whatsoever.
That makes
Uh,
sense.
I feel like that's all chakra blocks all over the place, and wasn't it?
I
Everything I
mean,
said there.
yeah. Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so I need to get on this. So for somebody who is listening to this like me and like everything I just said, they were like, wait, me too. What do I do? Where can people get started on like something easy that's maybe to like incorporate daily, weekly, something where they can start on this process of chakra work?
Yeah, definitely. So, okay, first of all of this stuff is in that ebook. Each chakra has lots of different things that you can use in the physical world that are helpful to attune each one. The first one and the best one always is sound frequency. You definitely want to use sound healing, whether that's crystal bowls or just like, a vetted YouTube channel. I would say, like, not all of them are what they say they are. Subliminal messages are real and just be careful, but, um, you know, find a good one. And listen to some, binaural beats. That's a really great one. Frequency definitely helps you bring things back into balance. There are also crystals, there are essential oils, there are plants that you can connect with. You can even wear the color of the chakra. So from root to head to crown, it goes in the rainbow. So root is red, sacral orange, solar plexus yellow, your heart is green and also sometimes pink. Your throat is blue, your third eye is indigo, and your crown is violet or white. And so, you can like literally, if you know that your throat is out of balance, get your blue on and just start being in the blue energy, light blue candles, bring blue into your world so that you can just be reminded visually, oh, right, yeah, I'm doing this work. I'm working on this thing. It seems simple, but really and truly, our reality is far more simple than we want it to be. We complex it because we are complex beings, but it's just us overcomplicating things. The truth is that it's just as simple as like literally, if you want more money, wear more red. It's like, it's silly, but it's true.
I personally love that. And I always associate blue with healing whenever I'm doing anything, but really it's like any color, just depends on what you're healing.
Yes.
Love it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The colors always work for me. I think maybe just I'm a visual learner. But
Mm.
all the color stuff usually works for me in my practice.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, color theory and working with the chakra colors is an incredible way to, bring awareness because like our whole reality is informed by what we see, right? We believe in all of the things that we see, the atoms that form themselves around us. We believe in them. I believe that the trees are real. I believe that, all these things. And I know that there are atomic things that I cannot see. And I also very much believe that there are things infinitely larger than us that we cannot see, and we are like ants that can't understand, the grandioseness of these spirits, of these energies. And so, yeah, I think that the colors in this dimension that we look at shape that. So, yeah, use color for sure.
I think that concept is like one of my favorite things to remember when I'm like having a rough day. I'm like, we are specks of dust in the infinite universe.
Correct.
My problems are not real and nothing matters. It
That's
actually
right.
makes me feel better though. I'm like, excellent. This is not really a big deal because in the grand scheme of things, I am a speck of dust.
That's correct. And also, you are the entire universe being expressed as one individual. So, no pressure for that, but it does matter an awful lot. So.
No, I mean, I really like, I know some people would be like, that's like existential dread, but like, I'm like, no, this makes me feel better because otherwise, like, my problems seem like huge and insurmountable. But I'm like, no, they're not. They're teeny tiny. Everything is teeny tiny. I
So,
find all of this stuff fascinating. But the last like question, I have two last questions. First, I
okay,
would like to ask you, in your own practice, in your own life, is there anything that you do regularly for your well-being?
definitely. Meditation is numero uno. I meditate every day, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day. whether that's like a walking meditation or literally sitting in silence, or playing, the Insight Timer app, whatever it might be. I meditate a lot. It's a very important part of my practice. I journal. That's also a very important part of my day. Um, I create a lot. I'm a big artist, and I believe that even making bad art is important. So that's certainly a big part of my practice as well. Especially when things are starting to get a little dark, I'm like, what can I create right now that would make this different and better? Um, and yeah, I do a lot of talking. I rely heavily on the people in my world. They have supported me, like I said, through everything from eating disorders and suicide attempts to, breakups to, difficulties with my family and so on and so forth. So I really rely heavily on those, loved ones that I care so deeply for. Um, and I'm intentional about pretty much everything that I do. I live with intention. I dress with intention. I'm never unconscious about things. And I try to bring to the foreground of my mind, exactly like you said, that there is a huge wide universe of things that are happening out there, and what is happening for me in this lifetime is happening for me, not to me. And so I try to really, really, really be in that frame as much as possible, so that I don't lose my ever loving mind, because there's a lot of people who don't want to address or acknowledge, the realities of reality. And that can be very frustrating. It can feel very othering, when you can see beyond the veil. And so I really just try to, yeah, stick with my tribe and stay very, very grounded in myself so that I don't um, lose it.
And do you have any last advice that you would like to offer beginners that are listening right now?
Be kind to yourself. There is so much to know. And wanting to know it all is so normal, but actually, it's an ongoing process of learning and unlearning and learning and unlearning. We often refer to healing as a spiral, and it's sort of this upward spiral where you're ascending to new levels of yourself until eventually you ascend straight out of your body, which we call death. But if you're here and you're playing the game, then you're winning, because a lot of people aren't playing, and I say that a lot. So, be very, very kind to yourself in the process of learning who you really are, and, what this reality has to offer to you. Um, it's not easy to be human. So it's very important that you find ways to be kind to yourself. And so, yeah, use your creative energy, use use your thinking for good, not for evil, because you could drive yourself crazy, and it's really you who does that. It's not anyone or anything outside of yourself. So take your power back and be kind to yourself, as like your religion.
That is excellent advice and excellent advice to end on. Well, thank you so much for being here and for having this great chat. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day.
It was my pleasure. Thank you so much. This has been super fun.
And listeners, as always, I will have everything linked in the show notes and over at witchwednesdays.com, so you can check out everything and get the free ebook, of course. And that is everything that I have for you all this week. I will see you all next week.
Need even more witchcraft in your life? Subscribe to Witch Wednesdays on Patreon and YouTube for all types of exclusive bonus content like spells, recipes, book reviews, and more, or even order personalized tarot readings and spells. Be sure to follow on Instagram at Witch Wednesdays Podcast. And you can find all these links and more at witchwednesdays.com.